All right, I'm back. Just waiting for people to tune in for part 2 of the Hebrew Bible study. We'll see who we get tuning in. First and foremost, I hope Cosmic joins me right off the bat because having him in the mix is excellent. All right, we got people tuning in. Come on in, everybody. Come on in. We're going to give a little bit for everyone to tune back in, and then we'll go live. I'm going to use, or then we'll pick up where we left off. I'm going to use these few minutes here while we're waiting for everyone to come back in to do a little commercial and say, please, 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 if you have the free time Saturday night, go to the link, just where the link in my profile where you'll be downloading this scripture. In that same list of links, there will be Saturday's Hebrew folk magic class. If you're appreciating this at all, I appreciate it. If y'all come check out the class, we're going to go into applying these principles, and it is critical. If you've got this much background, just what we've covered now in the past hour, you're going to be coming into that class on Saturday with a lot more information, a lot more of a foundation and a background and a context to understand what we're going to be talking about. It's going to be a 2.5-hour class. We're going to be talking about applying this in your workings, in your magical workings. But again, context matters so much. We don't have a lot of time to cover it in, so the more context you can get now, and the other Bible studies we do, and the rest of the stuff we do, the better. Okay? So I appreciate it. I'm also going to tell you, I'm going to be setting up, totally optional. If you're interested, please do it. 2 more links in my link tree. One is going to be for membership in the Holy Mountain Spiritualist Temple. Okay? This is the Spiritualist Temple that I'm founding here in Colorado. It obviously is a virtual thing. This Bible study is brought to you by the Holy Mountain Spiritualist Temple. I tell you more about that all another time, but if you want to be officially a member, join up. It'll give you certain protections, certain rights, certain privileges, and we can talk about all that after. 2 will be a sign up for my mailing list / newsletter. Please do it if you are interested in staying up to date. Instagram has been doing all kinds of stuff, messing with me. Google banned me today. I get banned from I'm banned from PayPal. I'm banned from everything on the internet. I don't know why. I'm a nice guy, as you guys can tell. But in any case, the mailing list is going to be the best place to make sure you're up to date on everything I'm doing. Otherwise, who knows? Instagram may decide to blacklist me. Cool. With that said, we got 18. I like to wait till 20 till we get going. There's 19. Oh, we're falling now. Hopefully people will tune in. We'll go live any moment here. Does anyone have any questions about the first half? Questions or comments on the first half? It is good to see people tuning into part 2. That's encouraging. Oh, we're over 20. So as soon as I confirm there are no questions or comments on first half, we'll just go right back into it. But I know that we got that little 30-second-ish lag. And we are on Genesis 1:11. Vayomer Elohim. So, and God said, let the earth sprout vegetation, seed yielding herbs, and fruit trees producing fruit according to its kind, in which its seed is found on the earth. And it was so. And again, all those links I was just talking about, I'm going to be posting them to my link tree. That's going to be later. And it looks like it did let me save and upload that video. So I'm going to be taking that. I'm going to be ripping it. Kaz has some way for me to rip it. I'm going to post it everywhere. So you should be able to go back through, take notes, bring up the text, etc., etc. And so all those links I was just talking about, I'm going to be posting to the link in my profile after this. In the meantime, let's pick up where we left off. We are on Genesis 1:11. Okay? And God said, let the earth sprout vegetation, seed yielding herbs, and fruit trees producing fruit according to its kind, in which its seed is found on the earth, and it was so. Now, we talked about the distinction between vegetation and seed yielding herbs. We talked about the definition that the Rashi has for let the earth sprout. We talked about why it specifies the seed yielding aspect of the herbs. So now we're going to talk about what the Rashi says about the fruit trees. Again, in the first video, hopefully y'all can go back and watch it on the afterwards if you missed it. And I give a lot of context for who these characters are and what Hebrew Bible study is as a discipline. So we're talking about the fruit trees. They said the taste of the tree should be like the taste of the fruit. The earth did not do so, however, but the earth gave forth trees producing fruit, but the trees themselves were not fruit. Therefore, when man was cursed because of his iniquity, the earth too was punished for its iniquity. So the idea was that the tree was supposed to taste like the fruit itself. Now, as we know, and this ties into your root work absolutely, the remnant of that essence is in the tree, not the full thing. And the trees were punished for that. Or sorry, that this is the punishment of the trees now, because they participated in the sin of giving forth the apple. It says, in which its seed is found, that these are the kernels of every fruit from which the tree grows when it is planted. The idea of a seed was linguistically tricky at some point. That's unnecessary for us today. We know what a seed means. Okay, we're on verse 12, Genesis 1 and 12. V'totze ha'aretz teshev Mazriah zera leminehu ve'etz oseh pri asher zar'o vo leminehu ve'yareh Elohim kitov. And the earth gave forth vegetation, seed. Oh, that's what we just did. Oh no, and the earth gave, because this is the earth responding to that command, and the earth gave forth vegetation, seed yielding herbs according to its kind, and trees producing fruit, in which its seed is found according to its kind, and God saw that it was good. So, 2 points. First, we saw earlier that the rabbis claimed that God said it was good twice on day 3, and that was their proof that the work of the water wasn't finished on day 2. So we see in verse God called the dry land earth, and the gathering of the waters he called seas, and God saw that it was good. And God said, let the earth sprout vegetation, seed yielding herbs, and fruit trees producing fruit. Seed is found on the earth, and it was so. And the earth gave forth vegetation, seed yielding herbs according to its kind, and trees producing fruit, in which its seed is found according to its kind. And God saw that it was good. So now we know, we have verification of that theory, that twice in this day, because the day is about to wrap up here, it hasn't wrapped up yet. So God started the water work on day 2. Finishes the water work on day 3 by gathering it all into one place. In day 2, he separates the waters. In day 3, he gathers the waters, and in the dry land that's created, he says sprout vegetation. And again, if you're doing this and you're conjuring, Genesis 1:11 and 1:12 are critical to establishing that God created those plants, and that he commanded it, and that they grew in response, so that they follow his orders.
I also would say that with the just backing up for a second, as I'm making a note here, the separating and the gathering, the separating and the gathering, the separating and the gathering, and in alchemy, the motto is solve et coagula. To
dissolve and coagulate.
Exactly. Yeah. And even just about that, a hands-on nature in your work, and particularly when it comes to waters or baths that you're making, right? And the breaking of the plants in the waters, and the dividing and the gathering, and the dividing and the gathering, and the dividing and the gathering. Because I think, as you were saying that, those two, something you said, there was the commentator said that showed that it was not complete, because he divided and he gathered again. And I thought about that even when I make baths, just the swishing of the waters, right? The turning of the waters, the stirring of the waters, the moving across the waters, as it were, and breaking the plants open, fanning them out, gathering them together, breaking them again, fanning them out, gathering together, breaking them again, fanning them out, to really get all that good essence into the bath formula, for example.
I like that. I almost want to do a second reading here and see how long that pattern, because that is the pattern of, we know in terms of physics, the pattern of creation: condense and expands, and condense and expands, and condense and expands. And, this, let's see how many times it goes, because like a bellows, working a forge almost. Only thing Rashi has to say on this: and the earth gave forth, that even though Leminehu, according to its kind, was not said regarding the herbs when they were commanded to grow, they heard that the trees were commanded this way, So they presumed that was true for them too. This is some of the Jewish thought that caused loss. I know. I can tell you were smiling about that one. They said it for the trees, so the herbs did it too. They just were making sure. You know,
You two plus my two thumbs, that makes three.
Yud Gimel Vayhi Erev Vayhi Boker Yom Shlishi, and it was evening and it was morning, a third day, and it was evening and it was a morning, third day. Says Alter. Verse 14. So in school we would make people, we would make it. You know, we'd go around the class. Someone else would now have to like embarrassingly struggle for the Hebrew instead of just the same person over and over and over. Vayomer Elohim. By the way, you will hear me pronounce Hebrew at least 3 different ways in this. None of them is exactly the right way because I'm not trying really hard, but you'll hear me pronounce in a very American accent. You'll hear me pronounce it with a Persian accent, and then sometimes I'll use like an Israeli-ish accent in different readings. Usually I'm consistent per reading. So don't try to model your pronunciation off the quick, dirty way I'm reading it out right here. Vayomer Elohim Yehi Me'orot Birkia. Here's an interesting point. Before we have the word Rakia, it means the firmament. Birkia. Be in. Rakia, same word, but the vowels change. Helpful because there's no fucking vowels. So, Birkia, Hashamayim, Lahavdil, Bein Hayom Uvein Halayla, V'hayu Leotot, Ul Mo'adim, Ul Yamim Ve'shanim. And God said, let there be luminaries in the expanse of the heavens to separate between the day and between the night. I love that repeated, and you have it here and you have it before. Between the waters above and between the waters below. Between is imposed twice, and that seems to imply that air gap principle we were talking about. What's up? And that might very well be why there's dawn and dusk. We'll see what Rashi has to say about this. Maybe I'm actually just remembering some shit I learned in first grade. Separate between the day and between the night, and they shall be for signs and for appointed seasons and days for years. I want to hear how Alter renders this, because that idea, and they shall be for signs, is the first time we have the idea of a sign. As you know, Doc, sign is a very important concept spiritually, both in terms of divination and in terms of just receiving the word and being in tune with the universe, as it were. And so Alter translate that. And they shall be, okay. And God said, let there be lights in the vault of the heaven to divide the day from the night, and they shall be signs for the fixed times and for days and years. Here also, when we're talking about fixed time, days and years, this is where we begin to get the idea of astrology. Right? This is where because we're talking about the lights in the vault of the heavens, they are dividing the day and the night. That's one function. And there will be signs for fixed times after the days and the years.
Now we go from wisdom, which is the ability to discern difference, this and that, the other and third, right and wrong, and appropriate, inappropriate, and so forth. But then we cross over into honor. Now, honor, it takes wisdom in order to honor something, but honor is to celebrate something because of its difference, right? So number one, you need wisdom to know these things are different, all right? Mm-hmm. But then you honor this thing because of its difference. It is not like this, right? And so there's certain things that we honor certain things on Tuesday or at certain times, right? Mm-hmm. We know they are different, all right? That's wisdom. But then we access the law of honor by celebrating things because of their difference.
It's almost recognizing that it's special.
Yes. So when you think about things like, for example, honor thy mother and thy father, there's both wisdom and honor. Number one, that you are like any other man or woman on the planet, right? But then I celebrate you because you're different than any other man or woman on the planet. That's the honoring aspect.
Right. All right. Let's see what Rashi has to say about 114. Let there be luminaries. He says, they were created on the first day, and on the fourth day he commanded them to be suspended in the sky. And likewise, all the creations of heaven and earth were created on the first day, and each one was fixed in its proper place on the day that was decreed upon it. This is why it is written, with the heavens to include their products, and with the earth to include its products. So there's this idea, again, back to that tohu vavohu, that everything's mixed together. Everything mixed together. In that together mixedness, God creates everything. And then he kind of takes his time setting it up real nice. Next line, let there be luminaries. So in the Hebrew, Yehi Ma'orot. The word Ma'orot is written without the letter Vav. So it could be the word Me'erot. Because the fourth day is Me'erot means curses. Wow, I saw your ears perk up, Doc. You hear the word curses. Me'erot means curses. Because the fourth day is a cursed day when children become ill with croup. Oh, I should also say, the day, first day is Sunday, second day is Monday, third day is Tuesday, fourth day is Wednesday. The fourth day is a cursed day when children become ill with croup. This is what we learned on the fourth day of the week. The men of the Ma'amad would fast so that the children would not become ill with croup. This is we hear in one of these tractates. So, classic Rashi. Glad we have an example of it only 15 lines in. You know why I had to study that? Why you have to study it now? Because in the fucking book, not everything's in there. That's in there. It has significance. You're learning about the nature of the day. Indeed, I bet we can now go ahead and look at Wednesday as probably a day that one could effectively curse people with disease as opposed to any other days. And now I'm tempted to go back. We'll get to Exodus. I'm curious to try to lay that out over days of the week based on this principle. We'll find the right day.
Because it sounds that there's a specific nature to the curse that deals with health and illness, sickness, disease. Which even if you think of Wednesday in a more traditional view of being ruled by Mercury, or even coming under the guise of the angel Raphael, all of these have those correlations with medicine, health, wellness, sickness, disease.
Well, I'll take you one further. So it's croup, which my quick Google type says refers to an infection of the upper airway which obstructs breathing and causes a characteristic barking cough.
Wow.
Other signs and symptoms of croup are the result of swelling around the voice box, windpipe, and bronchial tubes. So very
mercurial.
Yeah. And so we also learn here that the cure for that affliction is through fasting.
Interesting.
All right. Obviously, this one's got a lot of commentary. This is the most Rashi we've come across so far. So to separate between the day and the night.
I'll be right back, Moses. I need to get my stand here.
You got it, Doc. So this happened after the first light was hidden away, but during the 7. And there's another reading to say during the 3 days of creation. The primordial light and darkness served together both by day and by night. Now we're starting to get into scratching Kabbalah surface. According to the Rambam and early editions of Rashi, it appears that the reading during the 7 days of creation is the authentic reading. Ramban, who is different from Rambam, they're two famous rabbis, however, quotes Genesis Rabbah, which states that the original primordial light served only during the first 3 days. This stuff, again, this is the sort of stuff that may seem irrelevant, but for thousands of years, the keepers of this book spent their days and nights studying, memorizing, and debating these points to understand it with more clarity, with more clarity, with more clarity. This is why I have a big issue with the King James. I use it in my work because it's good dramatic language, but I like this Robert Alter translation even better. But as far as approximating it in English, but to truly capture the essence of what we're talking about, you got to go with a Hebrew translation as well. And they shall be for signs. Kaz and I talked about this idea of signs and what they mean. This is when the luminaries are eclipsed, it is an unfavorable omen for the world, as it is said in Jeremiah 10:2. And from the signs of the heaven, be not dismayed. When you perform the will of the Holy One, blessed be He, you need not fear retribution. Here we have another huge point. That you can What is this talking about? Can anyone guess what this might be talking about in terms of astrology? I'll repeat it again. It says, and they shall be for signs. When the luminaries are eclipsed, eclipsed being a loose term here, it's translation, but we can think of a retrograde planet, right? It is an unfavorable omen for the world, as it said in Jeremiah, and from the signs of the heaven, be not dismayed. When you perform the will of the Holy One, blessed be He, you need not fear retribution. So you can transcend the will of the planets. You can transcend the will of the stars as long as you are following the Holy One. You will not suffer the retribution of the stars. You will not suffer the harms of those states if you're performing the will of the Holy One. Goes on to say, and for appointed seasons. So this refers to the future when the Israelites are destined to be commanded concerning the festivals, and they're going to need some reference for that. This is what Genesis Rabbah says. So this is teaching us about using a lunar calendar. And for days, so the sun serves for half a day, and the moon serves for half of the day. So that gives you a full day. Why does it say that he's giving you the luminaries for days? Because the two of them gives you a day. And years. At the end of 365 days and a quarter, they complete the revolution through the 12 constellations of the zodiac, which serve them, and that constitutes a year. And they return and start a second time to revolve on the sphere like their first revolution. Right? So this is how the great heavenly bodies appear to move through the constellations, and you can mark the year. So, again, the verse, and God said, let there be luminaries, ma'orot, in the expanse, barakia of the heavens, hashamayim, lahavdil, to separate, again, to discern, again, causes, as he was talking about, there's this discern, collect. So again, we're discerning now between lahavdil, bein hayom, uvein halayla, between the day and between the night. Vehayu le'otot, and they shall be for signs, and they shall be for signs and for appointed seasons and for days and years. So this is talking about the astrological zodiac. This is talking about day and night, the calendar, the week. All this is coming together. The basic concepts of time that we take for granted as already existing, but by no means are indicated by nature on its face, right? Like nature, if you just wake up every day and go through the day, you can astrologically determine a 365 and a quarter day year. But you cannot astrologically determine a 7-day week. That's made up. Okay? So this is talking about a logic that gave this to the culture. Okay. Vehayu lemeorot barakia hashamayim lehair al haaretz vehiyuken. And they shall be for luminaries. In addition, they will serve in this function to shed light. That's like an afterthought. No, maybe not an afterthought. But that's a dual purpose. On the one hand, they're a clock and a calendar, and on another hand, they are a source of light. Okay? Word light we have here, me'orot, or is the word for light, and it is also a heavy, loaded word. I've been leaving out the altars, the rounded altars. We'll go back over here. And there shall be lights in the vault of the heaven to light up the earth. And so it was. So again, we have this dual purpose for the heavenly bodies. One, to provide a calendar. Secondly, to provide the astrological referencing of time and seasons. And then this other purpose of shedding light. We can get that too. We look at the connection between those things, between movement and time and light. We're going to look deeply into that if we want to get into E equals mc squared, right? Like energy is mass times the speed of light is what that equation means. That's what Einstein realized. That's all contained in this verse. Okay. Sorry, I'm juggling a lot of screens here. Got me too great.
Me too, man. I'm trying to I'm trying to maintain even.
Oh man, I skipped 16, but yeah, as Elohim et shnei me'or ha'me'orot, made two.
What verse are we in?
We're on 1 and 16.
Okay.
Ve'ya'as Elohim et shnei hameorot hagdolim. So 2 great luminaries, and God, ve'ya'as, and made Elohim God, et, kind of like a preposition, shnei, 2 hameorot hagdolim, 2 great luminaries. Et hameor hagadol lememshelet hayom. The Me'or Hagadol, the great luminary, to Memshelet, to rule the Yom, the day. Ve'et HaMe'or HaKatan, the Memshelet Halayla. And the great luminary, Memshelet, the lesser luminary, Memshelet Katan, lesser, smaller, to rule Memshelet Halayla, the night. Ve'et HaKochavim, and the stars is an afterthought. So Rashi says, the 2 great luminaries, they were created equal, but the moon was made smaller because it brought charges and said it is impossible for 2 kings to use the same crown. So, yeah, how about that, Doc?
So wait a minute. So okay, because I was about to. Can I throw in some commentaries from off of
Do it.
But I wanted you bring us something I bring up a lot when I talk about this, and I think I want to say it's Corinthians 15. Let me just see if I can.
Oh, let me finish this Rashi while you're flipping pages here. Okay. So the sun and the moon were created equal, but the moon was made lesser because it brought charges, because he complained and said it's impossible for 2 kings to use the same crown. So Rashi explains that this understanding is based on the discrepancy of the 2 expressions. The 2 great luminaries, it says in the beginning, and it intimates that the moon was also a great luminary. And then it calls it the lesser luminary, which intimates that the moon was smaller than the sun after. So to reconcile this difference, the rabbis asserted that the moon was originally had to be created equal to the sun. But because of its complaint that the sun wielded the same power that it wielded, it was forced to relinquish that power. Doc, do we want to take this a level deeper and peel back a layer and talk about the history of the moon cult and the sun cult, the moon cult preceding the sun cult? And therefore, if we take another reading of Genesis as the history of the spiritual cults of the human race, obviously the phases of the moon, the movement of the moon, the changes in the moon, and the goddess cult associated with it predate the solar cult that we see take the whole world at that time. So this is also talking about that originally these 2 cults, or at some point perhaps at the composition of these verses, these 2 cults were equivalent, and that the moon cult contested this sudden upstart of a sun cult and was punished in the eyes of the record keeper, so to speak, and made lesser as a result. Throwing a whole other, peeling back a slight layer just so we can talk about how deep a Bible study can go. And the stars, so because he diminished the moon, he had to therefore appease it, so he increased its hosts, it says. The stars serve as the entourage of the moon. So when it comes out, they accompany it, and when it sets, they too set. So the idea is that, so here's the history. God creates the sun and the moon. The moon says 2 kings can't share the same crown. God says, you're going to be a problem. You are going to be lesser. The moon says, come on, what the fuck, dude? And God says, all right, hold on. Clearly, his sense needs an ego to protect, so he gave it the stars.
So there are many lenses to look at biblical text from, right? And I was just about she my students right on it. She to get right in my head. There are many lenses to look at the text from, and one of them certainly is from the vantage point of society, that there was balance, as it were, right? And one felt threatened by the other, all right? As you said, began to punish the lunar, maybe the goddess-centric cult that predated the God-centric cult, okay? And we can even go not in Jeremiah, I think it's chapter 28, when he's talking about the Queen of Heaven, right? And they said, why do you keep going to the Queen of Heaven? They talk about how, well, she was here first, number one, and number two, we never had any problems with her. We never had no family, we never had wars. But I wanted to bring in, you mentioned something about the shared crown here. Corinthians chapter 15, verse 37, and that which thou sowest, no, verse 38, but God given it a body as it hath pleased him, and to every seed his own body. All flesh is not the same flesh, but there is one kind of flesh of men, another flesh of beasts, another of fishes, and another of birds. Verse 40. There are also celestial bodies and bodies terrestrial, but the glory of the celestial is one, and the glory of the terrestrial is another. Verse 41, there is one glory of the sun, and another glory of the moon, and another glory of the stars, for one star differeth from another star in glory. So there's this idea that there are different virtues, different elements, different abilities, different glories, all right, that each of the celestial bodies house or illumine on the planet. This is Cambridge says the work of creation on the fourth day is twofold. Genesis 1:16, God is said to make the sun, the moon, and the stars. Genesis 1:17, he is said to set them in their place. It is noticeable that although the greater and the lesser lights are mentioned, the names sun and moon are omitted, possibly in order to avoid reference by name to heavenly bodies. This expression assigns to the sun and moon a kind of quasi-personal dominion over the realms of day and night. For example, Job 38:33, knowest thou the ordinances of heaven? Canst thou establish the dominion thereof in the earth? Possibly the expression rule may be a survival of an earlier stage in the Hebrew cosmogony, in which the sun and moon receive some kind of personification. At least the word is noticeable in a context similarly from a metaphor. He ends by saying this: the abruptness of the original, which literally runs, quote, and the stars, end quote, the brevity of the clause, together with the absence of any further definition of the function of the stars, as distinguished from the greater light, is very noteworthy. It may possibly indicate a needed abbreviation in order to remove some of the older features of the cosmogony which conflicted with modern ideals of monotheism.
I think that supports our theory that this is a reference to the history of religion. All right, you're top 19. But here, Boker Yom Revi. It was evening, it was morning, fourth day. Technically, we are at our limit now. I'm going to go 4 more minutes, and maybe we'll make it through another verse or two. Or sorry, I'm going to go 10 more minutes. Maybe we'll make it through another verse or two. So now we're on 1 and 20. Vayomer Elohim Yishratzu Hamayim Sheretz Nephesh. Nephesh is an important word that we'll come back to. Chaya ve'of ye'ofef, of that word, al ha'aretz, al pnei rikia hashemayim. And God said, let the water swarm, a swarming of living creatures, and let fowl fly over the earth across the expanse of the heaven. So the word nephesh is a word that comes up a lot. It's translated, I believe, in King James as soul.
More like an base soul.
Nephesh chaya. It says that there should be life in them. And then the way, I know Alter, we read that article that talked about how this was a big deal for him. He said, God said, let the water swarm with the swarm of living creatures, and let fowl fly over the earth across the vault of the heavens. A swarming, sheretz. Every living thing that is not much higher than the earth is sheretz. So among the winged creatures such as flies, among the insects and the ants and the beetles and the worms, and among the larger creatures like the weasel, mouse, lizard, they're like, and the fish. So they're saying that because they use the word swarming, we're not talking about mammals. We're talking about things that creep, crawl, sheretz, whatever. So 21. This is a great one. This one greatly fascinated me as a young man. 21 here. Vayivra Elohim et ha-paninim hagdolim ve'et kol nefesh hachaya veromeset asher shartzu hamayim leminnehem et kol of kanaf leminehu veyar Elohim kitov. So, and God created the great sea monsters and every living creature that crawls, with which the waters swarmed according to their kind, and every winged fowl according to its kind, and God saw that it was good. Alter says, and God created the great sea monsters. So he, this excellent translator, went with monsters, and every living creature that crawls, which the water has swarmed forth of each kind, and the winged fowl of each kind, and God saw that it was good. Right? So Rashi says of the word sea monsters, because this is obviously something everyone wants to know about, the great fish in the sea, and in the words of the Agadah, this refers to the Leviathan and its mate, for he created them male and female. And he slew the female and salted her away for the righteous in the future, for if they would propagate, the world could not exist because of them. On the word, and we'll review that, Hatanim is written, the final yod, which denotes the plural, is missing. So the implication that Leviathan did not remain two, but that the number was reduced to one. And living creatures as a creature in which there is life. So let's talk about Leviathan being a water creature, and the fact that it had a mate that God, just out of pure mercy, killed to remove from like a utterly catastrophic breeding process. So I find that the it's repeated that the Leviathan is a water creature, but somehow in Western occultism that gets pretty lost.
So I know, for example, like there's a whole chapter in the book of Job I reference a great deal in dealing with Leviathan. So today, if we're going to look at this from the conjurer's eye, all right, as we scratch our own, right?
I believe the name of our show is The Conjurer's Eye.
Is that the name of our show?
I think so. I mean, we both scratched our left eye.
You're supposed to at the same time, right? Okay.
We both give each other the evil eye.
Conjurer's eye. If we're looking at this through the lens of conjure, then this, of course, is greatly related to working with the alligator or the crocodile, right? Whether it's an alligator hand, fixing them and so forth. But there is a process of not just, I think this is very critical to talk about, especially in Genesis, this book of beginnings, this book of breathings of life into things. They were not just working with dumb, mute knickknacks we picked up on the way to the store off the ground, all right? But that there has to be life breathed into them, right? That you have to summon in other words, we use the chicken bone or the chicken foot, all right, to summon forth to connect with the cockatrice, okay, or the alligator foot or the hand of the alligator deal with the Leviathan, that what's in its grasp cannot be undone, right? He's going to not only will it not be undone, but Job talks about how he has such a fearsome look that you wouldn't even dare try to take it from him. Right? So I think when you're dealing with very big land creatures, the behemoth, which comes up, I think, in Job 30. Matter of fact, let me just, while you talk for a minute while I try to get this reference here.
Well, we're actually about to get to very big land creatures, and this is the first time the word appears in the Hebrew right now. Two verses from now. by the way, this is where the Leviathan had to be cut back, because in 22, V'yarechotam Elohim leomer pru urvu. If you take no other Hebrew away from this, pru urvu, be fruitful and multiply. This is the commandment to make things multiply. Umilu et hamayim beyamim v'ha'of yerev ba'aretz. And God blessed them, saying, be fruitful and multiply, and fill the waters of the seas, and let the fowl multiply upon the earth. He blessed them because people decimate them and hunt them and eat them. They required a blessing. And the beasts also require a blessing because the serpent was destined to be cursed. He did not bless them lest the serpent be included. Be fruitful. The word pru is derived from pre, which means fruit, so it means fruits. The connection of fruit and bodily proliferation, like having mad kids, is here implied. And multiply. If he had only said be fruitful, one would beget one and no more. And multiply was therefore required so that one could beget many.
I want to peel back a layer here.
Yeah.
And
it was evening and it was morning, 5th day. We got through 5 days, you guys.
Wow, we got through 5 days in 2 hours. We're doing better than Moses.
Here we go with the word beast comes here. Let the earth bring forth living creatures. Elohim totzeh haaretz Nephesh chaya, living creatures, according to their kind. Lemino behema, beasts. Varemesh v'chayto eretz lemina yehi chen. And God said, let the earth bring forth living creatures according to their kind. They say cattle here. It's not cattle. Cattle's a shit translation. And creeping things and the beasts of the earth according to their kind. And it was so. Let's see what this dude says. He says cattle also. So behemah, behemoth. Behemot is behemoth, which is a plurality of cattle, maybe like a stampede.
Mm-hmm. It's plural.
Hello. Closest thing to a behemoth.
Here. So when you have your money, okay, or your money altar, all right. I connect two verses together. One is be fruitful and multiply. And the other is out of Isaiah that says, as the water goes and waters the grass, it doesn't return back void. All right. So you will not return back to me empty. All right. You're going to go and you're going to multiply. You're going to be fruitful. You're going to return back to me more and full than what I sent you out to do. I want to say that. And
it's 8:44. All right, I gotta wrap it and go.
So we do this again next. We're having the Conjurer's Eye next week.
Oh, we're doing this every week. This is every week, and we're gonna save this. You're gonna teach me how to rip this.
Well, I already ripped the first one.
Oh, good.
Make sure it still works.
I got Doc on the tech support back here, and we'll get this. I'll get them posted to the Patreon, and I want to leave it on this note. So far, everything we've seen, we got to 24. Everything we've seen before, first of all, the breath of God and the Spirit of God across the face of the water to start the work. Okay, that's how you start your work. What's in that water, how you fix that water, that's a entire series in and of itself. That's how you start your work. And the next thing I want you to pay attention to, if you take nothing else away from this, every single time, and God said, and God made. God says, and God makes. It's not just make. It's not just say. He doesn't just say it and it makes it happen. God says, and then God makes. Making mojo hands, doing work in general. Everything you're doing, say it, and then do it.
Speak over your work. This is not one of those intention-only crafts. You know,
narrate almost what you're going to do. Narrate your intention into the work. Command verbally into your work. Tell it what it should do, and then he speaks. He tells it what to do, and then he makes it. And if you're doing root work, if you're making a mojo bag, That's how you know. You lay these things out, you tell them what to do, and then you make your thing. All right, we're going to wrap it there. I think we've already given people enough to chew on for a couple of days. Holler at Cosmic if you wanted to check out his Bible study on Wednesday. We'll be back here next Monday. Hopefully it doesn't sound like my kids woke up, so this should work. I know I did get one text saying I was getting a little excited at one point. But
follow this guy because you need to learn about legitimate hoodoo. You need to learn about Hebrew folk magic. That you've been working with seals and amulets and charms, and you can't even pronounce a left right like I just pronounced it wrong. Yeah, that's exactly why we all need to be in his class.
And again, follow this guy. Oh, this is cool. I like how this works. Follow this guy here because he'll teach you plenty about legitimate hoodoo, and he'll break down the Bible in a whole different, equally analytical way. Between the two of us, I learn something every time I check out Kyle's. Kyle's learns something when he checks out me. So that means if you're watching both of us, you're going to be learning a whole lot. That's the one thing I can guarantee you. And again, if you're watching at this point, please check out. I got 5 tickets left at the super early bird special price. Tonight at midnight, they shift anyway. And then you can go ahead and check out this Saturday night. It's going to be about $50, $55. You can check out the Hebrew Folk Magic course. For just $10, you can get the recording. And I have proven it. Someone has successfully just scroll down, order the add-ons for the tickets. You can $10, buy it and pre-order the recording. It's going to be more when I post the recording. So right now you can pre-order the recording for $10, or better yet, a 10 live for $55. And check out the Hebrew Folk Magic class again. It will be this Saturday night. You can check the link in my profile or bio. And we will not get as deep as we did here. But again, if you've seen any of this, let alone all of this, you got a really good foundation for the way we're going to go about this, especially if you've seen it through the tips at the end. Doc, I want to thank you for joining me tonight.
My pleasure. It was fun.
This is the most I got to talk to you straight for a minute, so it's been cool, man.
Yeah.
Everyone, thank you for tuning in. God bless you as always. As we said, the blessing coming in, I have to say the blessing at the end. Where'd it go? Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu torat emet v'chayei olam natan b'tocheinu Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, King of the universe, who gave us the Torah of truth and implanted the law of truth and implanted eternal life within us. Blessed are you, God, Adonai, giver of the law. Thank you guys for tuning in. Peace out.